What's going on, everyone, and happy Powell Day. We have a whole lot to talk about today as the market cracked brand new all-time highs and 75% of stocks in the S&P 500 closed in the green today. Not only that, we had some big earnings from Micron in after hours. That stock is mooning right now. We have also more news with Chipotle that is planning a 50-1 stock split. And all this is happening as, like I said, the market is back at all-time highs. Jerome Powell did what he does best, and that's smooth talk the market. So we have a lot to talk about today, and we have some great setups and predictions for tomorrow. Towards the end of today's video, we have a $670,000 big money trade that you won't want to miss. But Tom, with that being said, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, this is one of the best days that we've seen in a while with the stock market, especially coming off of an FOMC event. It was good to see the market crack that all-time high. We blasted above 518, got all the way up to 521 here, and in after hours, we're going even higher. So who knows where we will open up tomorrow, but there was a lot of crazy momentum today, whether you look at NVIDIA or Apple or Microsoft or just any of those bigger names. They are all up in the green today, and we're seeing that good market momentum continue here. I know the bulls are going to be very happy in the comment section tonight. So if you are, let me know if you like today's meeting. But of course, Mike, let's get right into it. The first thing that I saw that was very important is that the Fed saw that they're looking for 3 rate cuts to come in this year. And that's going to be a huge, huge statement. Whenever we start to go over to the dot plot from the Feds, you can actually see how they are looking for, I guess you could say, the rates to start dropping over the next couple of years. But the big thing is that they're looking for those 3 cuts to come in this year. And we talked about the Fed Watch tool a ton yesterday, Mike. And you can see that when we go out to that June meeting, the probability of a cut actually went up from last night. It was around 55 to 60%, depending on when you looked at it. Now we're seeing a 65% chance of that cut. And whenever you scroll down here in the easing section, there's a 72% chance because they're actually pricing in an 8.4% of actually a 50 basis point cut. So at the end of the day, Mike, it's good to see this data coming in this way, and the bulls are loving it, as we can tell.
Jerome Powell has a special way with words, doesn't he? But like on a more serious note, basically there wasn't anything crazy that happened in today's FOMC event. Jerome Powell basically, did what he does best. He smooth talked the market, and he basically said that we're probably going to cut rates this year, but we want to be a little bit more confident before we actually start to cut rates. And right now, they are expected to do their first rate cut on June 12th of 2024. So keep that in mind, and we will see over the coming months if he actually does cut rates soon. But the market loved it. It's at brand new all-time highs, and there was a whole lot of positivity across multiple different industries. And one thing that I thought was pretty interesting is looking at this chart right here, we can see that the number of all-time highs made so far this year is now 18, right? Which is a lot, but what's also interesting is that looking at past years like 2021 or 2020 or 2019 or 2017, or even if you look at like 1995, that was a pretty big one. When we see all-time highs, it is pretty common for all-time highs to, more all-time highs to follow that, right? All-time highs and, uptrends and, this sort of movement tends to cluster. And I just thought this was interesting and worth sharing because it's been a crazy year so far. I'll leave it at that.
It really has, and a lot of stocks are at that point where it's like, oh my gosh, are they really going to keep going? And they're literally saying, yes, we are, and that's kind of the market that we're in right now. And we all know that a lot of these stocks are pretty overextended, but we always talk about this. Human psychology plays a big role in the stock market. Whenever that snowball effect starts happening to the upside, a lot of people start to really hop on that train, and nothing slows it down. Right now, nothing's slowing down this freight train, Mike. It's like the market is a monster right now. So looking at the market for tomorrow, it's like, are we going to continue up again? That's the big question. Is everyone looking for that? I personally am. Now, I think there could be some pullbacks mixed in, but obviously going into tomorrow, based off of this close today, I mean, there's a lot of good sentiment out there.
Big time. And speaking of good sentiment, you have to check out Chipotle stock. So ticker symbol CMG, this thing is a real freight train, and it actually broke above the $3,000 mark today. The stock is up over 330% over the past 5 years, and a lot of people know Chipotle, but no one really trades the stock because it's $3,000 a share, right? So it kind of like cuts a lot of people out there. But they actually had some pretty interesting news yesterday where they're going to do a 50-to-1 stock split. So basically, Chipotle stock is going to be divided by 50. So it'll bring it to around like, $60 a share or so. And I think this will make for some pretty good opportunities with this stock over the coming months because, it'll just bring in a lot more liquidity and volume and options activity into this one. And we have seen other stocks go pretty crazy in the past, like Google, after their stock split. So just keep this in mind. Chipotle should come into play over the next couple weeks and months.
Yeah, that should be pretty fun. I know that CMG is a pretty crazy stock. Whenever I was looking at the news this morning and I went out to the daily chart, I was like, oh my gosh, it looks like Costco or something. Like the way that some of these stocks have been flying up lately, and they're not even like the most popular stocks out there, right? Like everyone's looking at Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon. At the end of the day, I mean, these stocks like Costco, CMG, and some of these other, I guess you could say, safer stocks are doing pretty well. So that's an awesome chart to see. And I'm glad that they're doing the split, Mike, because like you said, it kind of turns people off when you have to pay $3,000 a share. I know even Bitcoin turns some people off with their prices.
Yeah, and this split with Chipotle isn't set to actually go into play until like June of this year, so it will take a little bit of time, but I just wanted to cover that while the stock is blasting. But another stock that is just going crazy today is MU, which is Micron. So surprise, surprise, it's another chip company, and it's really going crazy in after hours. They had some pretty good guidance for their earnings report. They beat on revenue, and of course, anything with chip stocks and AI just has been going crazy lately.
Yeah, exactly. They have good guidance, and they actually announced something, I believe, earlier in the year with Nvidia, which is pretty big. They're actually supplying them parts to help make their GPUs, so that's going to be huge for them, as they work with Nvidia there. It's one of the biggest names out there on the market, so that's going to be a big deal. And whenever they forecasted that revenue beat, Mike, I mean, that was pretty big. I mean, it was pretty a large beat. The estimate was only $6.03 billion, and they're forecasting $6.60 billion. So that's quite a bit there whenever you're looking at forecasts. But at the end of the day, MU's blasting up, and that's just going to add to this bullishness. I was kind of worried that MU would come out and kind of dampen the overall move, but I'm really glad that it ended up breaking $100. And hey, this should fuel a pretty good rally into tomorrow on these chip stocks.
There we go. And we also had some more exciting earnings for this week as well. Chewy reported in after hours today, and it's been doing decent. But what else is on the lineup, Tom?
Yeah, tomorrow in after hours, we have a pretty big stock. Nike, Lulu, and FedEx are all reporting tomorrow in after hours. Before open, we have SNDL, which is a marijuana stock. I know those have been going pretty crazy lately, so maybe that'll shed some light on that business. But either way, Nike, Lulu, and FedEx in after hours will be pretty big. I think Lulu will be my big watcher tomorrow.
Sounds great. And then the FOMC event was definitely the star of the show for the economic schedule, so there's not really anything too crazy to pay attention to for the rest of the week on this side of things, but that is certainly not a bad thing because it gives you more, I guess you could say, flexibility to just trade the price action. So great stuff there. And Tom, let's get right into some setups and predictions for tomorrow. I've been talking about this stock, I think, like every single day this week, and it just keeps on moving higher, and that is CGC. So, long story short, it's a marijuana company. These stocks, most of the time, just fade lower, but every now and then, they move in a way that is more crazy than any other industry out there. There's been a lot of volume and a lot of money flowing into these stocks, and given it's an election year, the industry that CGC is in has a lot to gain. So I'm going to continue to look at CGC to the upside, but the most important thing with a setup like this one is to see that continuous bullish volume and momentum flowing into it. As soon as the volume dries up, these types of stocks are just not really worth the risk. But for as long long as the volume and true bullish power stays with the stock, it makes them pretty interesting setups.
It does, and it actually broke above 420 this morning very well, held that as support, and going into tomorrow, I really like the way that it held its high of day here, so I think there's a lot of good potential on these MJ stocks in the short term. With my first play, I'm looking at ticker symbol ARM. This is one of those crazy chip stocks that has been going wild, and it had a pretty good move end of day today. It ran up to around recent resistance around 133 to 134. If it can end up breaking this big 134 resistance, I will end up looking at calls tomorrow on this stock and just chip stocks in general. Even if I look at like Nvidia or something like SMCI or any other chip stock, I'm just looking at bullishness in that overall sector. But I don't think I would trade SMCI, though, giving that offering that we talked about yesterday.
True that. Yeah, that was a rough one for sure. But another stock I'm watching is ticker symbol JD. So China stocks, or the sentiment surrounding them at least, has been rebounding over the past couple of weeks and months. And this stock, JD, has been running up ever since their earnings on March 6th. They're getting very close to a breakout above the $28.85 area. If we can see a clean break above that area, then I will definitely look at this one for a call breakout play. And we're going to talk about this setup even more later in the video, so stick with us.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome stock, Mike. Overall, JD and all the China stocks have been on a big ripper. I can't believe, like, when I go out on an hourly chart, how much they've been up over the past couple weeks. But with my next play, I'm looking at Microsoft, and with Microsoft, we are actually looking at Bookmap as well. So Microsoft is on a heater right now in after hours, and I'm actually going to be looking for this one to continue. But there is some important levels to look for on the Bookmap as well. If we look overhead, there's a big stack of sellers up around that 430 mark. So heading into tomorrow, I'm going to look for a run up into 430 and then actually a breakout up above there. If Microsoft can keep up with the same type of momentum it had today, it should be able to make a pretty good break. So let's see what happens, Mike, but I'm definitely going to watch that 430 area as we have that major area where those sellers are stacked.
Yeah, there's a lot of sellers with this one. Like overhead, 430 is a giant level, and Microsoft is right at its all-time highs as well. So it'll be worth watching this one closely. As we all know, it's a big tech stock, and when we have the market moving the way it has been, it'll definitely be worth watching closely over the next couple of days. But Tom, it's now about that time for today's momentum plays, and with today's first one, we have GLD to the upside, which just loved today's FOMC event.
Yeah, that was huge. The dollar tanked and gold ended up running up quite a bit. So I'm looking for GLD to continue up tomorrow above the high of day, right around 202.65. And it's right around the all-time high, if not even making new all-time highs.
All right, with the next one, we have Ford also to the upside.
Yeah, ticker symbol F. That was a great move by Ford heading into today. That was a huge gain, up 4.88%. If it can break above $12.95, then look at calls.
Alrighty, and then with the last one, we have TLT for both directions, which was kind of all over the place today.
It was. It fell down, then it started running back up. But if it falls under that low right around 92.30, then go ahead and look at puts to the downside. But if it ends up breaking back above 93.30, then eye up calls.
All right, so we have the upside level for calls, and we have the downside level for puts. This is for TLT. Don't forget about the upside levels on Ford and GLD. These three stocks are on watch for potential day trades tomorrow. If and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. We are looking for breakthroughs of the levels Tom listed, and then continuations in those directions. But Tom, it's also now about that time for today's $670,000 big money trade of the day. And we are going back to JD. So I told you guys we'd swing back to this one. But basically today, the big money put $670,000 into the JD 31 strike call options that expire on June 21st of 2024. JD's been running in a great way over the past couple weeks. It's very close to a breakout, especially at $28.85. These 31 strike calls are a little bit far out of the money, but in the grand scheme of things, JD is such a volatile stock and it's so oversold where it doesn't really concern me too much, especially given that the options have all the way out until June of June 21st, you can say. So they have a good amount of time. I like the risk reward here. I will say the main thing with this one is to just give it the time it needs. Ideally, we see a breakout in the short term of $28.85, and then like a strong, powerful uptrend follow that. But even in the worst case scenario, again, these options do have some time. So keep a close eye on them.
Yeah, the China stocks are starting to blast off. There's a lot of good sentiment surrounding the China stocks lately. I know that the Chinese government has been doing a lot trying to boost their markets up a little bit more, and it looks like it's starting to help some of these stocks. And they got pretty low, Mike. Like, I was actually getting pretty worried. I was like, we're one bad talk about Taiwan away from a disaster with these stocks. So yeah. I'm really glad that they ended up coming back. I do like this play quite a bit. I know a lot of people might think, hey, JD's overextended in the short term, and it might be a little bit, but let's go back out to some of these stocks that have been ripping up this year. Whether you look at DraftKings or Palantir or what have you, you know, these stocks do have times of pullback, and then they start to go on those bigger runs. So there might be a slight pullback, but overall, I really like this JD uptrend going on.
There we go. Well, it's a great time to be a trader, Tom. Powell just spoke. The market's cracking all-time highs on what seems like a weekly basis. We have chip stocks still kind of going crazy with Micron and their earnings in after hours today. We haven't seen a big stock split in a while, and Chipotle is going to do that for us. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunities in the market right now. Follow the money every day. Keep that risk managed, and let's keep on rolling. If you guys are new to the channel, consider demolishing that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. We post all the time, and in each video, we cover, you know, big money, multi-million-dollar trades, important news, events to watch out for, and charts and data that you just won't find anywhere else. So consider joining the Stocked Up crew. But I also want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Will G, in the Stocked Up Discord. You've been in the chat for almost 4 years now, and you're still super active in the community. So huge shout out to you, and keep up all of the great activity. And for those of you who haven't heard already, we are doing a pretty big sale on our Stocked Up trading floor. Basically, you get access to our army of trading robots. You can chat with Tom and myself all day long. You can join our weekly live events. You get access to the big money plays every single day before they're talked about on YouTube. So most of the time you get better entry prices, and honestly, it's the place to be if you're into short-term trading. We very rarely do sales, and you could save using coupon code BIGMONEY on the yearly plan. But besides that, we are set for a pretty exciting rest of the week, and which should be filled with some pretty good moves in both directions. Thank you all so much for watching, and let's end the week on a green note.